Building features people want can't be that hard. Yet, I see a lot of founders struggling with exactly this. They create a product roadmap, they plan features out for the next 6 months, and then they start shipping things that people just don't use. But there's a better way, and I will show you this in today's whiteboard session. And I will show you this also with an example, so you can actually see how and why I did certain decisions for an app, and also how you can validate features super early on, so you don't even have to build them to understand if people want to use them or not. That being said, let's dive right into it. So the usual way is that founders or builders, they start building software like this. So let's say you want to launch something next year, and for the next 4 months you planned out features. Could be whatever, but usually people tend to pick very big features, like let's build a Zapier integration, or we should introduce AI or an AI chat to this specific feature. And the problem with this is really, and let me highlight this, if you are here and you start designing the feature in the first part and then actually shipping it, you're wasting probably a full month until this feature goes live. And in this time, you will have 0 new users and 0 people who want to use that feature because you didn't validate it in the beginning. So you not only lost the 1 month of building this feature, you also lost, like I would say, even half a month just hoping and waiting that people will use your feature. And then, and this is something I see a lot with founders, they protect features like they're babies. Of course, they put a lot of effort into it. Even product teams, they don't want to kill a feature. But killing a feature is so important, because if you don't kill useless features, your app or your software will feel cluttered, and everything will go downwards from that on, because a cluttered software is a bad software. So how can you do this better? The first approach is changing the feature mindset into a problem mindset. So instead of features, you start with problems. And I want to highlight some specific examples here with the Padel Coach app. So this is an app where you book a paddle coach. That's the main goal. And for users who want to use the app, of course, in the future there will be more additional features, but the main purpose is they can find their paddle coach and then book sessions with them. An example of a feature that you could ship, and that's something we actually discussed. You have the list of your coaches, and we thought about adding a map view to that. So you can click on a map and then you see all the coaches related to that. We didn't build this because no user ever said, hey, we should add a map, or I need to see where my coaches are. The only important thing is how close they are actually to them. So instead of building like a map feature, we just added or sorted them by how close they are to you. And then, because it's an app, we need to add a prompt for iOS saying, hey, can we use your location, or do you want to share your location? An example for a real problem is the following. So after someone booked, so this is the confirm booking screen, you booked your coach, you have this overview, and after that we have a success screen. So hey, this booking is done, and your session will be ready. A problem we found out during user interviews, and also while talking to the team as well, is that people were quite unsure what to do after that. So you book the thing. Maybe if you want, you can add it to your calendar or something. But until your session, what are you going to do? So we decided to build like a type of an onboarding screen. And here you see that you create an account, you found your coach, and here you have an overview of what is going to happen next. So the next step is prepare for your lesson. You can add it to your calendar. You can message your coach in case you have some questions, because we found out that a lot of people actually wanted to message their coach. They had some questions, and in the future you can automate those answers maybe, or those questions, or you answer them in the profile already. But I think the message button directly here is quite important. After that, after you have your session, you can rate your session. So we can already show, hey, this is your current step, but this would be your next step. And how did we validate this? We showed this screen to about 5 users and asked them what they can see here. So the setting was basically, we asked a few users, we sent an email, hey, can you help us improve our product? We just need 15 minutes of your time on a Google Meet. 5 people signed up, we showed them the screen and asked them to tell us what they see here. With this, we validated that this screen is clear and people understand what it is for. And if some users were particularly engaged at the end of the session, so we added 10 more minutes to ask them how they usually find their coaches. But this is the first step of the validation. It took us not even a full day, and we already know so much more of how this feature impacts the user and what they think about it. However, and that's something important, we still don't know if people are actually going to use it. There's another way how to find this out. So if we go back to our roadmap, we don't have features anymore, but we have problems. And the problem here was that people don't know what to do after they booked a session. So we took maybe 1 or 2 days to build a prototype and to test it, and then spent the rest of the sprint to build it. After we built it, we shipped it. Usually you can think about things like, should we split test it? Should we announce the feature? However, this was more or less of a feature, more of a fix or support for a business problem. So we just decided to ship it. And then you also need to calculate 2 weeks where you can measure it. And what measuring means is you publish something and then you need to validate if people are actually using it, if this is useful to them. And to do that, you need to set up analytics, a goal, and a time period. In this case, here the time period was 2 weeks. The metrics we wanted to measure are 2 things. First of all, how many people added the session to the calendar. So we just measured button click. And the second thing, and that's why we actually wanted to fix this, is to reduce the cancellation rate. So people who canceled the session before it even starts. So we wanted to reduce that. So we had to measure it first. So the goal was to reduce the number by, I don't remember, I think 10%. In 2 weeks, measuring the add to calendar ratio and the cancellation ratio. And then, and that's the most important thing, and after those 2 weeks of measuring, there are basically 3 outcomes. The first one is the cancellation rate actually increases, which in that case didn't happen, of course, but there have been improvements on paper that actually made the metrics worse. So again, that's why you need to measure. And this is the first outcome. The second is it didn't change anything at all. In that case, you really need to think about removing the feature again, because if it didn't change anything and it didn't improve, it either didn't impact the users, or, and that's why I say you might want to remove it, is because 2 weeks of measurement is just not enough. And in the third case, what actually happened is we reduced the cancellation rate, which is good, and we decided to keep the feature. But without the measurement and the decision, you will keep adding new features that might be useless to your app. So what we did here is, instead of building a feature for a month, measuring it and then finding out it's useless, and keeping it in the app to clutter the app even more, we decided to prototype and test the app in the first week, build it in the second week, and then measure it for the rest of the month. And then we can say confidently that this is a feature that people like and that people need, but also if it actually helps us achieving our business goals. And the best thing is that you can run tests and measurements simultaneously, which means if you work on this problem here, you can already start working on a second problem while measuring the other one. I want to give you another example to also highlight other ways how you can validate features. Alright, so let's look at this screen specifically. So if you want to book a Padel coach, you get a list of the coaches in your area, and then if you click it or tap it, you see their profile. In this design, there are already a lot of informations, like how many students they have, which languages they speak, and some things in the app that helps them get more confident about booking. However, in the beginning, we had no idea how this screen needs to look like and which information it needs to show. And in that case, you need to do user interviews. So how does this usually look like? You send emails to I don't know how many people that are not users yet, or maybe you didn't even build anything yet and you want to just survey some people, and you send them an email like this. Hey, we want to build an app where people can book coaches for Padel, and we were wondering if you want to help us do that by just learning a bit more of how you currently book Padel coaches. Would that be worth 1 hour of your time? And with that, usually people love helping, so you can expect some positive responses. You book a time with them in Google Meet, and then you go into the call. And the most important thing, like I have a script ready for you that you can just download somewhere below the video. But the most important thing you want to do with this interview is not suggest to them that they need to use your app or your software, but it is to find out how their current process looks like. There were basically two things we wanted to find out. How does their current process of finding a coach looks like, or how did it look like when they booked a coach? And second, which information they usually look for when it comes to picking their coach. And then they said things like, hey, I would like to know how many students they already have. I would like to know if they already won some tournaments, or any way to see if they're actually good. I would also like to know, are they close to me? And do they do group sessions, single sessions, and things like this. So with basically one set of questions and 2 to 3 people who signed up for that, we found out not only how people currently book it and which problems they have with it, but we also found out what criteria they need in order to book a coach confidently. And this information transformed into this design where price, reviews, I mean, those are no-brainers, but things like how many students they already have and if they speak English or any other languages. And also, most coaches have one specific club. So we added this here as well. And to go back to how we're building features, this took a bit longer because you need to plan the research. And the problem was that, we just didn't know how people pick their coach and what to put on this profile page. So this took a bit longer to prototype and test. But the good thing is, if we would have built this profile or this overview page of a coach, we would have no idea what to put there. It would all be just guesses and assumptions. And because we invested a week or two into finding out how they pick their coaches and how to know to trust them, we had a lot more confidence in building the feature afterwards. So this was building. And again, we wanted to validate this. So from here to here, we started measuring. And this test was quite simple. We just measured the rate from someone joining the app to actually booking the first session. And if this increased, we kept the feature. If it wouldn't change anything, we would think about what to do. And if it would have get worse, even we would have canceled the feature again. And I think pros call it a build, measure, learn process, but whatever you want to call it, you just want to validate if a problem is fixed as quickly as possible with as much confidence as you can get, because that's also an important thing. If you dedicate weeks and months into user research, into user interviews, prototyping, A/B testing, eventually you will be quite confident, but especially in the beginning, you simply cannot invest months into user research. You just need to fail fast, and with this method, I think that's the best way to start. All right, I'm glad you made it until the end of the video, and let me know how you liked this whiteboard session. And if you want to see more of those things, then hit subscribe and hit the like button, and see you in the next video. Bye.